Welcome to Rectified Radio. From the latest in crypto news to educating the public, we aim to fight FUD and have fun talking blockchain. Fun segments, interactive guests, and more. This is Rectified Radio. Powered by VibraVid.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Rectified Radio podcast. With me, as usual, I've got my co-host, Krish, a.k.a. Minion. What's going on, brother?
Shit, bro. Not much. I was looking into that. I was reading this announcement from Justin on Reddit or on Daily Chain from January, where he said that he was not going to dump any tokens. So I looked at it, and that's when I just started off with
That's why you started off with the sigh. Looks like there has been some of Tron Foundation's funds moving around, and it is of concern, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it. But we thought that you guys should know, not trying to start FUD, but we're going to report it and call it like we see it. We've always been Tron fans, but we cannot be biased here. We have to be impartial and really be fair. That's what this podcast is all about. So the thing here is we have seen that funds from the foundation have been moved over to Poloniex. So what do you think is going to happen? The natural assumption is going to be that they're going to dump their own token onto the market, which sucks and goes against what he said.
So all of those funds, they are moving to Poloniex instead of Binance. So it could be, two things, or, either one of two things or both. He could be providing liquidity for Tron in Poloniex,
right,
or he could be selling, or he could be doing both.
Yeah. At
the same time without people realizing it. And since he bought the exchange, he has a good excuse to, just be like, we're just providing liquidity for a margin trade, maybe for futures. I don't know how Poloniex works. I've never used it, but
it's a decent exchange. It's solid, but like you said, it could be doing both of those things, and I think that's actually what the case will end up being. But the argument is you have so many altcoin to TRX pairs. Why would you need to do that? So I guess just because of his track record, everyone's going to be questioning it, and we'll be keeping a close eye on that, but we definitely wanted to let the audience know about that. I don't know, man. That's the problem when you have a centralized ecosystem.
Exactly, and I'm hoping he's not selling. He's probably just providing liquidity. Would be my best hope at this point. My guess would be that he is selling when I'm just looking at it from an investor's point of view. But to be honest, we're all investors here, right? Like the people that listen to us, or anybody that actually is in Tron, isn't there because they love this kid from China, or because he went to Jack Ma's university,
Coupon University.
We do not care about Justin Sun. I mean, when it all started, we did not even know who Justin Sun was. And we are in it because we are investors, and we are looking at this platform that works. It's fast, it's free. It gives Tron the utility for governance and also resources on the network, which makes it like a heaven for building dApps or using dApps. And that's why we love it. We see where it's going, and that's why we invested in it. But if the guy is just going to dump the tokens, then we should know, right? There's no... I guess we should know that he's dumping, and then we could decide individually if we want to keep taking the dump or we want to get out and we want to do something else with our money. Because there are plenty of
options. Plenty of options, and we're going to get into that here in a minute. But the main thing is that I want to let the people know is we're not Tron haters. Like, I've got most of me personally, I'll be honest, I've got most of my stuff in TRX, and I want it to do well, but you can't turn a blind eye to all this and then hope for the best.
That'd be denial, and we still have time. right? And Tron's going to pump a few times. You know, it's not saying that I'm going to sell at 55 Satoshis right now, but it's going to pump a few times. Like even scam coins, even BitConnect, when it dumped after they, like shut down, it dumped to, I think, $1, maybe less, and then pumped all the way to $84. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's crypto for you. But
yep.
I think that we should just be very careful and just not turn the blind eye, man. I've gotten a lot of hate recently, and Steven has gotten a lot of hate because he's pretty much talking the truth. So the fans on Twitter, dude, I got a disturbing DM, man, the other day for someone. Oh, yeah. He said, how dare you talk about, he's like, how dare you talk about Tron? And then he sent me like all these like disgusting images and said he's going to freaking F this, rape that in front of me. Like, I was like, holy cow, man. Like, how can someone be this crazy? It was nuts, man. I had to like block and report him and stuff.
Being a fan of something really sucks, because when you look at it, most people are not in it for the tech. Most people are in it for the money, and they are investors. Mm-hmm. And I'm an investor. Like, I enjoy the tech, and I see the uses of it, and there could be lots of uses that I haven't even seen yet or thought of yet. But when I see of those things, I'm thinking, okay, if this goes mainstream, I could be making lots of money from this. I'm not thinking if this goes mainstream, I'm like some weird thing, because I'm not really. I mean, I'm big into my personal privacy, where I use VPNs when I'm surfing, and I take measures to protect my own privacy. But I'm not so crazy into like where all my money needs to be hidden, like it needs to be in Monero. or everything needs to be decentralized in this world. I don't believe in that, because I think sometimes centralization is good, right? If there's like a construction that needs to be done and one guy is in charge, they can say, hey, do this construction. If it's like the whole world's in charge, like think about all the votes. Like, okay, you need votes from all these people from the entire planet, 51%, to see if we're going to build this or not, right? Yeah. And that's going to take forever. So some things are good centralized. So I'm not like deep crazy into this thing, like I like Bitcoin as sound money because it has no CEO, and it's decentralized. The mining is focused on like a few mining pools, but people can always take off their hash power from those mining pools because they're just directing it to them to make more money. So it kind of works, because Bitcoin works. It has no CEO. There's no risk of CEO just dying from a plane crash or selling the coins, or so that's why Bitcoin's the most popular one right now. It also has the early movers advantage, I guess. Yeah. But when it comes to Tron or even XRP, Ethereum, these things, they have their foundations, or Tron's like even more involved, because it's all Justin Sun creating the hype. I mean, every pump you think about it, every pump that I've seen in Tron, and I've made money from those, I'm not gonna lie, but every pump has been about Justin Sun spreading some not false information, but just a rumor in the market, like, hey, something big is coming.
Stretched information.
Exactly. Tron's going to be top one. And he deleted that tweet, right? He was like, Tron's going to be top one. And I think CZ told him something in the comments, and he deleted that tweet. And he has tweeted several times, BTT back in top 30, Tron in top 10. But now he's starting to see that his words are not working like they used to.
Right.
Like right after the bull market. Like if Justin Sun said, oh, Tron's going to be top 5, the market would immediately start pumping. But now if he's been wrong so many times that, even with just that Tron top 10 and BTT top 30 thing, now nobody's like actually buying into it.
Right. And I mean, the governance speaks for itself when there's really no community representation and we're silenced. And I feel like it was a good thing now that we had an episode where we looked at Steem and Hive very objectively, and we had our opinions. And frankly, mine's has changed ever since then, because I really see why they did what they did.
Yep, me too.
And there's more. There's more to the story now with this whole thing that Steem is doing some hard fork and locking like a whole bunch of funds. That's freaking nuts. It's kind of like a revenge plot that Justin Sun is doing.
Well, now Justin controls Steemit. because most of the actual like the steamers, I don't know what they're called, steamers. That's probably not the word, but
they're
the
Hivers
Steam
now.
users, yeah, the actual people who built on Steam and used Steam long after Dan Latimer left, they actually cared about the project, and they left and went created Hive now, like hard forked. I'm sorry. So Justin basically owns Steam, right? He has the most, I guess, the most influence. Last time he even got exchanges to use their funds. Poloniex is his exchange, pretty much. He got Binance to use their funds. He can do anything. So what I heard was he was about to freeze about $5 million in user funds and Steam it, targeting the people who hard forked. And this is illegal shit. In crypto, if you have 51% consensus and people want to fork, they can fork. There's no big deal in it.
They call
you cannot say, "Oh, you fork."
Yeah, they call all this the sock puppets accounts that he controls. And now the latest, which was a few hours ago, I'll read this tweet from Burzum. I don't know what it is. It says, in an unexpected turn of events, the funds stolen with Steem, Hardfork 23, are now in custody of Bittrex Exchange. The account the coins went to was created via a service run by a Hive witness. All their accounts are. And it seems like he was prepared. So someone also tried to... I know there's a tweet where someone hacked it and they said... they left a memo that said stealing is bad. That's freaking crazy, man. This thing is
it is their
crazy.
coins. It is their coins, you know. I mean, whatever coins Steemit they had, I understand they got an equivalent amount of Hive tokens on the new blockchain, but that is still their coins. You cannot take Roger Ver's Bitcoins just because he forked Bitcoin and created Bcash.
Yeah, exactly.
You cannot take the fake Satoshi's Bitcoins because he created BSV.
Yeah, we should
Justin is living in a different world, bro. I mean, if you think about it, like, who does that? So these guys forked Steemit and they created Hive. So I'm gonna freeze their Steem coins. Like, who the hell does that? What are you thinking? Like, is this North Korea or the old day China? Like, what are you thinking, man? That is just crazy. Like, you have that mentality of a dictator, and you're trying to make your coin the biggest coin in a governance, which is like the most democratic governance of all, right? It is way better than the United States government because it's decentralized. And that's what you're aiming at, decentralized. And you are running with the mentality of a dictator. That's complete opposite, if you think about it.
Yeah, exactly. He came in with, and I don't want to turn this into a bashing fest, but he came in with such a great intention, decentralize the web, great slogan. We all got behind it. And little by little, like, he has turned into, someone seeking out revenge after this Steem stuff happened, and just really not giving a care for his own token and just buying stuff. And I can see very good things about the acquisitions that he made, BitTorrent, even DLive. But now, like, this Steem one just, backfired on him.
Yeah, he bought some companies. Yeah,
and that is precisely why Vibravid is very open to switching onto blockchains, and we've been doing research and seeing what it would take from a development implementation, and more importantly, one that will, because it's not just about like, hey, we're switched to your blockchain, give us a bunch of money, we'll switch. It's not about that. We need to have some form of decentralization, because with 20 of the super representative nodes being controlled by Tron or a Tron affiliate, then there's no point. We're not protected as a company because we're subjected to them and their blockchain. So if anything changes, we don't really have a say in it because they control everything. They control the supply. And one of the projects that really stood out to me, there's two, and we'll talk about one today. One is SYS that has been around for a while, but the other one that a lot of people are going to know about is Matic. So I know you have been pushing Matic on Twitter and really talking a lot about him. So can you give me a little education of Matic, because I'm very unfamiliar with how their blockchain works.
Okay, before I go into that, just to clarify things, we are not attacking Tron like the funds we talked about. We don't have the accurate data on it, if it's being sold or it's just providing liquidity on the exchange. I'm not sure why all those tokens were needed, but we will find out. So that's not anything that's not certain.
This is just us chatting and speculating.
Yeah, and the second thing about Steemit, if you think about it from a neutral point of view, that's just wrong. Because somebody forked your blockchain doesn't mean you take your coins. Just like we talked about, we don't take Rogerverse Bitcoins because he forked. Ethereum Classic, the whole DAO incident, they did not take each other's coin. They took, I think the new Ethereum took the hackers' coins, but that's their thing. And when it comes to Vibrabit, we're trying to create a decentralized place for sharing video contents or music. There's also the thing about YouTube censoring people, like censoring their thoughts and their beliefs, I guess. So with Vibrabit, the whole vision was to create a place where people can share as long as it's their content and they're not, sharing, I guess, a legal thing like, maybe child pornography, which I'm sure nobody supports. We're trying to create that, and that's why they started with the BTFS nodes. Because once you have BitTorrent, like the old BitTorrent, right, when it wasn't bought by Justin and all, and there was no money involved in it, then everybody was just sharing, and it was like this big supercomputer of so many nodes, each storing their data and sharing it to other peers, and the peer then in turn shares the data that they get to other peers. So it was a beautiful thing, and that's where the idea for Bitcoin came into being. Anyway, so when you look into Tron and how many nodes they're controlling, I think most people can see that if it comes to it, and if somebody were to post like lots of contents against Tron on Vibrabit, or if Steve just tweets something bad about Tron and he keeps doing it and he has influence, I'm pretty sure the guy who would try to freeze people's coins because they hard forked Steemit would in turn try to like censor the entire platform, Vibrabit. Maybe freeze all our wallets or freeze the cold storage wallets where the user funds are. And we are building new things. Maybe we're looking into staking, like we said last time. Maybe take our entire staking smart contract, because you can do it if you can rewrite the law, which you can do by the agreement of the block producers.
So yeah,
you can change those things.
So technically, right now, let's say we had that in place, and we pissed them off, and they can essentially, let's say we had all these coins staked in there, they can essentially take over that Vibrabit smart contract and screw us all, right? If they really wanted to. And that's why decentralization is important to a certain extent.
Yeah, for these things, definitely. Because if you're trying to fight censorship, trust nobody. Don't even trust Steve. Don't even trust me, right? Do not trust anybody. It should not be up to one person. And that's where decentralization is actually useful, because users should be free to express their views and not have to worry about all these repercussions happening.
Right.
And Justin has been shown, and today he showed that he's willing to freeze user funds. He's willing to freeze user funds just because they forked. You are legally allowed to fork a chain. If I have 51% consensus, I have the required number of block producers in my support, I can fork Tron today and create a new blockchain. Does that mean he gets to, or he should just freeze all the coins of the people who agreed and initiated the fork? That is just dictatorship. And just for that, and it doesn't mean that we are moving Vibrabit to a different blockchain, but we're looking into options and we are, open to it.
Yeah.
Just so we can keep the original vision of Vibrabit going.
Right. And I mean,
which is necessary, and I think that's how Steve thinks, but he doesn't mention it in his tweets. It's just like straight up hate, and people are attacking him.
Yeah,
but
poor guy.
His views are his.
Yeah, but I think we're honestly like, when you're a CEO of a company, you have to be careful of what you say. So I like the fact that he doesn't put a filter and he speaks the truth. But the thing is, there's a time and a place for everything. So maybe at times the timing isn't right. But I understand when you're a CEO, you have a lot of pressure on top of you, and you really want to make things happen. But I mean, we can always stick using Tron and Tron's tech. We can just go multi-chain even, right? Like, let's say we go to, and I'm not saying we're going to do this. We're just kind of spitballing here, but we can use other features. For instance, you tell me because you'd know, is it possible to use staking, but another blockchain for our staking feature on VibraVid?
Yeah, it would just be like a bridge. So many coins have it these days. And you guys might have known, and you probably know, like they have a Web2 standard so that they can trade on Binance DEX, and they have a ERC20, and they also have their main chain. Like Tron, I think, has 3 chains, right? If you try to withdraw from Binance, you get the option for TRX chain, TRC, ERC and TRX and Web2, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So essentially, it's possible. Yeah. It's possible that VibraVid could work and function seamlessly and be using multiple chains while not being much of a user experience effect, right?
Yeah. So in that case, we could still use use the good things from Tron, like its speed and the free transactions, while the actual big amounts of funds are held in a more decentralized environment or a more decentralized blockchain.
Like a Matic or a SYS, right?
Yeah, whatever has like the most amount of nodes right now. I think most people would agree that Ethereum still is the king of these smart contract platforms. It just lacks speed, and the fees are extremely high. But what they started, so 2 things happened in 2017. So let's talk about that. Okay, sure. So when the bull market hit, a bunch of people, like the ICO craze, and I remember some people like trying to buy the basic attention token ICO. They were sending like $500, $1,000 in gas fees so that their transaction goes through and they get some BAT. So these things happen a lot. Like there were scam ICOs, there were Ponzi schemes, there were so many things happening on ETH. And all these tokens, like one token pumping, a bunch of people, thousands of people sending those tokens to exchanges. And that's just one token. There were like thousands of tokens, and ETH itself was pumping. So we saw this crazy...
That's why the network clogged, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it clogged. And CryptoKitty is where the world realized that, okay, this thing is not usable. CryptoKitty was a wonderful thing. Like imagine having your own pet on the blockchain. Nobody can take it away from you, and your private key owns it. So that was an amazing thing that started. And it had the security of Ethereum, which people like, which, like Microsoft likes, which lots of big players in the industry like, because it just has so much security compared to these faster blockchains like EOS or Tron, I guess, which sacrifices security or, puts in more of a centralized element by using a DPoS model with 21 block producers to get more speed. And 2 things came from that. So there were Ethereum Killers. There were platforms like EOS, Tron, as we know, Cardano, which is still researching. I think they're releasing their mainnet next month, Shelly. There's like, if you just look from like top 20 crypto, you'll see a bunch of Ethereum Killers. Or,
quote unquote Ethereum Killers.
Quote unquote. Yeah, quote unquote. And the other group of people that came in were people who wanted to make Ethereum better. So one of the efforts was ETH 2.0, but it has taken so long and, there's still no timeline to it. I heard summer, but I think Vitalik just changed it. He was like, yeah, I did not give any timeline. I did not want to give any exact timeline for it. But if you look into it, okay, so there's EOS, there's Tezos, there's Cardano, there's Stellar. I think you can also maybe build on crypto.com chain someday. I'm not sure. There's Tron. There's Ethereum Classic. There's Neo. There's Cosmos. I'm not sure what you do on MEM. I've seen that for a long time, but I never got to research it.
ICX, waves.
And I just read from the top 30 right now. I just read, I think, top 25 or top 30. And there were so many names in there. So the other group of people, they just wanted to make Ethereum better. And that came with a layer 2 solution. Just like we know the Lightning Network for Bitcoin is a layer 2 solution on top of the Bitcoin being the first layer or base layer. There's another layer on top of it. Kind of think of it like a hierarchy, I guess. That's how I look into it. Where the top layer verifies its transactions faster, cheaper, or even free. And when there's like enough transactions and the blocks are filled, then you go and you verify it with the actual Bitcoin miners on the base layer. So it does have the security of the base layer, but it creates this second environment or a environment within the main environment where transactions are cheap, extremely cheap or free, and they're extremely fast, thus increasing the throughput of Ethereum blockchain and also making it extremely cheap to use. So that, in my opinion, makes it the best of both worlds because it's not sacrificing anything at this point.
Mm-hmm. So
when those
is Matic in this box of that type of solution? Are they like a layered solution or are they a different blockchain? Let's get into them because I've found a lot of people hyping up Matic, so I want to know if it's, I mean, even you, I caught you saying it's the best of both worlds, of best of Tron and best of Ethereum. So like break it down for us so we can learn a little bit more of how they work.
Yeah, so Matic is a second layer, and it's kind of like a pseudo blockchain or like a second layer blockchain, but it runs on Ethereum. So it's not creating a whole new blockchain with DPoS, with just 21 reps controlling everything, people with the most funds or pre-mined tokens control everything. Mm-hmm. Like we see on, so for example, EOS, block 1 has 100 million out of the 1 billion EOS. And that's considered centralized. Now think about it, it's just 10%. And even that 10% being with one entity is considered centralized. In the case of Tron, I think Justin has about 35, 36 billion Tron that we know of in the foundation wallet that got unlocked this year. And that's 36% of the entire supply. Yeah. So what they are doing is they are using limited amount of witnesses. So after the 21 BPs, each block gets verified by one BP that's selected for that block, right? Bitcoin verified a bunch of blocks when it was in SR. I'm sorry, I'm saying when I say BP is this block producer or super representative, they do the same thing, just different names. Right. Since that particular rep is running on AWS basically, they're running on a cloud server and they have a bunch of speeds. Their cloud computing or their cloud computer is fast, so it processes the transaction faster, much faster than Ethereum or Bitcoin. But at this point, you are just making it fast and using AWS. Companies, if they just wanted faster transactions, they could just get an AWS instance or computer themselves and do those transactions. Because it is no different when it's just 21 people, and almost fully centralized, verifying those transactions using AWS computers. That's what these, most of these DPoS blockchains bring to the table is the speed. But in turn, like I said, they sacrifice the security of the blockchain. Yeah. And blockchain, like the primary thing of the blockchain is security. The whole idea behind a chain of blocks is so that you cannot just go into it. If it was just a room of data, you could enter and grab any data and destroy it. But when it's blockchains, it's one block has certain amount of data of your transactions, maybe different things. If it's a storage blockchain like Sia Coin, it has your data, like literal data. And the next block starts, it has other data, the new data, then the next block and the next block, and it forms a chain. So when you're attacking the Bitcoin network, you're paying, I think, about $500 million for the first 5 minutes of the attack. Wow. So you can only go through so many blocks in that time. And after the first 5 or 15 minutes, it starts costing in billions. So it's not useful for you to go anymore or attack it anymore. That's why the Bitcoin network doesn't get attacked and it's considered safe. Because the amount of hash power and the way it's aligned, or like the blocks, because you have to go through each of the blocks step by step.
So with these other solutions, like the second layer solution, like the Matic, how, like, is that a DPoS and a POS? Like, I'm confused on that.
Yes. So Matic itself is a DPoS. So you would still delegate to the validators, or SRs, because Tron people call it SRs. So I'm just going to call them SRs.
Yeah.
You delegate your coins, you vote through them. Pretty much the same governance. I'm not sure how many validators they're going to have. I hope there's like a lot, like 100, 200 validators instead of just 21. Maybe even 50, 60 would be a lot better than this. But once they verify the data, you're not relying just on them, on the integrity. They cannot go in and say, okay, they have agreement between 17 of the 21 validators or SRs. They cannot just go in and change your token structure, or change how much, or like freeze our wallets, right? Just like we talked about a few minutes earlier.
Because it falls back on the Ethereum chain after that, right?
Yes, exactly. So as soon as the blocks are full, those guys, they validate it on the second layer, and it works on the second layer. But after that, it goes down to the first layer, or the base layer, and the Ethereum miners, they verify it. So you have the security of Ethereum back in it. Somebody cannot just, if we say something bad about Sandeep, who's the, I think, co-founder of Matic, he cannot just freeze our funds, freeze user funds. So that's the beauty of it. It makes it extremely fast.
But doesn't it make it more expensive too? Wouldn't it? Because you're going through two blockchains now?
With Matic, there's a system where the service itself can decide to pay for the user, or all the funds are collected and transferred in the same block. So you're not paying for individual transaction each time. So say you have to, there was a Twitter built on top of Matic, and there's a Twitter built on top of Ethereum, right? Two Twitters.
Well, let's use Vibrabid, for example.
Okay. So Vibrabid, so there's a Vibrabid on top of Matic, and there's a Vibrabid on top of Ethereum. And say you wanted to post a video, and it would write something on the blockchain. So every time you're to send a video, or if we were to do it like everything, and I'm saying this, if we were to do everything on chain. So if somebody comments, it goes on the blockchain. So to comment, somebody would pay on Ethereum. They would pay, I think this morning I paid like 96 cents for one transaction. It was like 45 GOI. So they would pay $1 each time they want to post a comment. And that's why I said Twitter, because it's Twitter. Every time you want to tweet, and I think most people will get it. Yeah. Every time you wanted to tweet on Ethereum, sorry.
Because our commenting isn't on chain, so I totally get it.
Yeah. So
go back to Twitter. Twitter example.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yep. So Twitter on Ethereum, you wanted to type a tweet, 96 cents. You wanted to comment on somebody's tweet, 96 cents. Or say even 20 cents, 10 cents. Who wants to pay 10 cents? Like people want everything for free these days, right? They are happy with selling their data, so they can get everything for free. We are, not just they, but we are. So they're not going to pay 10 cents. I mean, think about people from smaller world, smaller countries. I mean, they're not going to pay 10 cents. That's probably like 1 hour of their salary to post a tweet or comment on it. Now do that same thing on Matic. You're probably paying like $0.000001. And even that could be taken care of by the company or the people that build that Twitter. So they can choose to or elect to pay for those transaction fees. And it's extremely cheap. So if there's like no transaction fee at all, it will just become like, I think, Tron or EOS, where there's not much use other than somebody has 200,000 Tron, right? For example, you have it, you have enough bandwidth and enough energy for days. You don't need anything more.
Right.
So that's where the demand for the token stops in terms of utility. And for voting, you don't really care because the rewards like 1 or 3%. Tron has, I think, extremely low rewards, and EOS has maybe 1%. So that's where the utility stops, and there's, I think, more threat to security, in my opinion, because the fees are extremely low. So I'm sorry, you get the point, right? I don't want to go
absolutely,
too much into
absolutely. Yeah, you can stop there. Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, the second layer, you have the first layer to fall back on, and because of that second layer, you're packing the that data into a block with the first layer, and that way you can afford to make the transactions like a trillion times, not a trillion times cheaper, but a lot cheaper, to where it's
a lot cheaper, yeah.
To where it's reasonable and people wouldn't notice that fee.
Yeah, either they would not notice, or they will, the companies actually running would pay for it, because they could also run validators and they would earn something from it,
right?
For being the validators, which in turn, like, they could use for paying the fees for the users. So there's nobody's actually losing there.
Right. And then, if I'm not mistaken, does Tron even have that capability? Like, would we be able to? Because right now you need at least a little bit of TRX in your wallet when you're trying to collect bounties and stuff, and you're putting out bounties. So does Tron even have the capability where we can cover that cost, or is that we have to jump through hoops to make that happen?
In case of Tron, I think we'd have to take all that into a centralized wallet, take all the user funds like an exchange does, and then do their transactions for them. So once they say like, yeah, I want to do this, or I want to post a bounty, then we'd have to use our energy from the centralized wallet to send it. But with Tron, it's just cheap. Like you could maybe stake like 20 TRX for energy, and I think you should be good, like claiming some dividends, or freezing bounties, some wink, here and there.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. I feel like this is a really good educating podcast right there, how you describe like the layer 2 solution type blockchains that are more popular now, and the quote unquote Ethereum killers. We talked about a bunch, so we should probably just wrap it up here.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions, just post a comment down below, and we can talk about it next time. Or if there's something interesting in crypto you guys want to know about.
Yeah, we'll do the digging for you, man. This is one of our hobbies that we like to do. We like to research crypto, and we like to talk about it. And the more you guys get involved, the audience, the better it is for us, because you give us more content to look into.
Well, yeah. All right, I think that's it for this episode. I will catch you guys next time then.
All right, peace.
Peace.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Rectified Radio Podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, and make sure to check us out on vibervid.io for exclusive content. Peace.
I'm just about that action, boss.